days. We'll guide you to a state park or recreation area that's a perfect fit. Start your next adventure today at yournebraskaparks.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, then the kids, and now the grandkids. Judson Irrigation has provided lawn sprinkler system design, installation, repair, and service to 4 generations. They're just like members of the family. Loyalty, trust, service. It's what you deserve and expect from Judson Irrigation.
Keep summer green. Call Judson Irrigation 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit ostreetcarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor in just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all.
O Street Carpet.
1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
93.7 The Ticket is your home for every Kansas City Royals baseball game. Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and the rest of the Royals attempt to make the postseason for the second season in a row. And you can hear all the action on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Your home for Kansas City Royals baseball.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Sundays. Harrison runs on the 1s and 2s. We got Jay Foreman on the Allo VIP line where they understand the importance of exceptional service with a local heart. Jay Foreman, how's it going on a Sunday, beautiful Sunday, at least here in Lincoln, Nebraska?
It's going good, man. It's Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Definitely will take care of all your imaging needs and hopefully get you on the right clear path to some guidance and obviously some, in my case, some pain relief. I will be there first thing next week. But before we get this party started, we want to wish, I know it's early, all our listeners, and then once we repost it, happy Mother's Day. The one thing, Harrison, is that, sometimes, you learn in sports that the moms are your harshest critic, but then also the ones that are most fierce competitors. And, obviously, my mom in particular, she's very, very competitive and never let me win at anything. And obviously had a big influence on my life to, challenge me throughout, even after football. So I want to give a shout out to all the moms out there that not only in sports, but in, the ones in general, the moms and, to be honest with you, the aunts and stuff like that too, just because, if you don't necessarily, you obviously when you're a mom that, birthing a child is one thing, but there's a lot of people that are in a big influence on people's lives that aren't technically their mom. So, anybody that has motherly, I guess, actions, I want to wish them a happy Mother's Day, just because they have a big impact on not only sports, because we're talking sports, but then on life of people that are just, figuring it out, this thing that we call life.
Yeah, it's crazy. The older I get, the more I realize, like, man, my mom probably could have set me straight a few more times than she did there. How many do you have in your family, siblings wise?
I have brothers.
Okay, because I just remember
Yeah.
I had the 3 older brothers for me, and like I'd always get so much slack for being the spoiled one out of the bunch, as the youngest always is. And I always like refuted that. The older I get, yeah, definitely was. So shout out my mom for that. And yeah, it's just always great. And then, as to your point, not just her, but like all the aunts in my family as well, because that's obviously a part of how she came to be. And it's crazy, like the things that you miss when you get older. Never thought like I'd miss the shriek that you hear in those bleachers from those basketball games.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just realize how big of a supporter you had back there. And it gets a little annoying like when you're younger, but the older you get, it's like, man, to have somebody in your corner like that in your adult life would just be incredible. But you got to figure it out on your own at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy that one time, my grandma, she was one of my harshest critics in high school. And it was, I told the story before that, when I played running back, I had the ball in the wrong hand, and she gave me essentially the riot act on why I needed to never do that again, and the possibilities of a fumble, and then, the funny thing about it is me and my grandma growing up, we watched a ton of football together, and she knew football in and out, and obviously we, football family. But then she never missed a game and stuff like that. So, it's just a motherly instinct to, sometimes it's got to be, hard and the hard truth. And then sometimes, you had a little bit of a soft landing, and they always kind of seem to know when what button to push. And then obviously when you're in it, out here's, mom or grandma and so forth and so on. And then, fortunate for me, my mom has been a big influence. And then, I had my dad and parents were separated, but then, he was with a lady named Beverly, who I want to get a shout out. She's battling a hard battle with cancer right now. And she, helped, raise me all the way up until I was about 16, 17 years old. So, I want to wish her, a good Mother's Day, and obviously continue along the battle of trying to defeat cancer and stuff. So, obviously, the big, when you think about Mother's Day and stuff like that, and then obviously with the NBA, playoffs going on, but more importantly, Harrison, before we get into that, obviously it was really big last night with Ant-Man, obviously showing that he's getting better and better in the playoffs. But it is NFL minicamp.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about it is, Harrison, and I know you're obviously astute, and your Bears will get the party started. Everybody's waiting to sign the draft picks. But, Harrison, when I was obviously a long time ago, they didn't sign rookie contracts, Harrison, until like 2 weeks before training camp. I just saw where Thomas Sidoni signed his contract, and they had a couple first-round picks sign their contract. Things have definitely changed, but then obviously all eyes are now on two places, and it all has to do with quarterback news, and they go together, right? New Orleans Saints jumped up and take Tyler Pugh from Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Odd pick, definitely probably not better than Shedeur Sanders. Cleveland got to wait a little bit, and we'll call it a value pick. You can talk about all the other stuff outside surrounding him. A value pick going to Cleveland. I wonder if New Orleans knew beforehand, knew that Derek Carr was going to retire, and if that would have changed how they approached the draft, because all indication was Derek Carr was going to play again. He came out with a statement, I think, before the draft. I think.
Yeah,
and then he came out
with the injury, right? I mean, it was just
right,
result of like, man, this injury is going to be way tough. I mean, because he's forfeiting, I can't remember how many millions, but I mean, it's a significant amount of money as well. So it's definitely just the injury. He's surprisingly having to retire, I think.
Yeah, and I think that he was rehabbing, and then he said, remember the report came out that he was going to not be able to play this year.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it got leaked. Then he came out. Remember, he's real religious, so I think he was he was talking at a church, and he kind of really fired back at, I guess the Saints or whoever, published that report.
Yeah.
And then he came out with another one. And then now, he turns in his, or he decided to retire. And look, you got to think Derek Carr, he goes to, drafted by Oakland. Him and Khalil Mack turn around that locker room. And remember, he was having an MVP season, and then he got hurt. Unfortunate. It was kind of like a fluke injury. He stays with them. Josh McDaniels comes in and runs him out of town. He goes to New Orleans, has decent success, but then obviously, he gets beat up pretty good because the offensive line is not what it used to be. And next thing you know, just like that, you're retired. And then on the flip side, it changed the whole way that I'm sure a lot of people approach the draft, because it's not just Shedeur Sanders that possibly could have went to New Orleans. You got to think Jackson Dart could have went to New Orleans in the first round. You know what I mean? So the timing of everything really, really turned the draft, or what didn't turn it upside down, but really would have turned the draft upside down, considering if Derek Carr would have announced his retirement just as recent as 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so it's interesting timing. I'm sure that he will get some of that money, because it's kind of like one of those things, Harrison, that so essentially the way it goes, and this is, just from experience, but then also where he's at, if he would have stayed on the team, they would have had to pay him, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say if it was $40 million. Well, by him retiring, it's a different salary cap hit. So then it's kind of like an NBA buyout. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He'll get some, just kind of like a good faith. Hey, I'm saving you guys X amount of money against the cap. If I didn't, I would have stayed here. What can we come up to with common? So you're not forfeiting all of it, but you're forfeiting some. But then also, to be honest with you, when it's time, it's time. And the one thing I learned, Harrison, is this. I remember the one conversation, or it was very few conversations I had with Lawrence Taylor, and I was asking about it. I was a little bit later in my career, and I was kind of like not, facing the fact that, my neck and back were pretty much shot. But then I remember him telling me, he's like, look, dude, he's like, if you're thinking twice about running headfirst into any other human being right now, he's like, it's time to really start considering it. And, that's where you got to, it's the hardest thing to come to realization, because I always say retiring from football is like a part of you, like your first part of your life up until that point is like death, in the sense of you can't go get 21 other guys to go play real football. So once you play football at the highest level, that's the only way you know how to play. You know what I mean? Like for real. Mm-hmm. And now physically you can't do it, but that's just what you view as football, right? And you can't do that. So you can't go replicate it again. You can't go to the YMCA and play tackle football or anything like that. You can do 7-on-7, but that's not what you're used to. Whereas basketball, baseball, even hockey, you can really play men's league, and you can get into competitive basketball teams throughout your post professional career. So it's a hard thing to deal with. And I know he's got a big family. He's got a great family. His brother David is a great mentor to him, and he had to go through it. And both of them have had great careers and done well for themselves and their family financially. So they'll be more than just fine. But the biggest thing that he's doing right now, Harrison, is on a Sunday. Now, it's Mother's Day and all that, is he's waking up Sunday, right, with no structure. This is the hardest thing, that he's going to be waking up on Monday without an obligation to go to rehab, think about the season. Now he's going to be – now, granted, look, he has a lot of kids, so you know what he's going to be. He's going to be essentially Daddy Uber. But it's drastically different when you've been doing it for so long. I think he played 12 years in the league, so he might be, 33, 34 years old. So you got to think, Harrison, if he started playing football since he was 8 years old, for the last 26 years, he knew exactly what he was doing Monday through, let's say, Saturday or Sunday. Now it's a total shift. Now he'll be able to get in to do something else, because he has a great personality and obviously well spoken. but it is drastically different, and it will be a change. It's a change for anybody. And so you're wishing them the best in that transition, because the first year or two is probably the hardest for any athlete in any sport, but in particular football, because, once you leave the game, it's not that. It's also the locker room. And that's what guys miss, at least for the most part. I mean, obviously the competition and money and fame is one thing, but it's being in that locker room is probably what guys miss the most when you decide to retire, is that camaraderie and things that we talk about Mother's Day, right? You talk about basketball games, hearing your mom and all that stuff. And I always talk about when I used to, see my mom at games, and then my dad would be at every game. I could always pick him out. Well, that's no longer what you have anymore. Like, he's not able to go in the locker room and, rizz up a offensive lineman or get to see the trainers or anything like that. I'm sure he's welcome back into the Saints at any point in time, but if he moves back to California, he is totally removed from that situation. So it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for him, or anybody else. But then also particularly the timing was very, very interesting, considering rookie mini camps are going on right now, and there's a QB battle up there in Cleveland that actually is a byproduct of the situation in New Orleans. And then there's a quarterback in New York, in the Giants, in Dirt, that's probably not going to play for a year or two, a byproduct of the lack of announcement or retirement of Derek Carr until after the draft. And that's the crazy thing about the draft. Things you don't know can affect how you operate in the present, and the things you wish you knew would allow you to act differently in the present, or in the past, in this case, in the draft.
Yeah, and I will say this, since before we get completely off the NFL here, it is Derek Carr, like, his NFL career, do you feel like he was one of the more underrated QBs going through it, or overrated? Because he's a guy that was like a lightning rod for whatever reason, and I always thought, I'll say this much, he reminds me of like Chris Paul's career a little bit, where he just kept landing up on a raw deal.
Yeah. You know what it is? That is awesome, Harrison. He is the NFL version of Chris Paul. I don't think he was overrated. I think he was underappreciated.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you this, and I played with his brother David, right? And I say this: the detriment to David, in my opinion, is that he didn't have a veteran to show him how to be a pro. David had all the talent in the world. He was tough, could throw, fast, all that. But he didn't know how to be a pro. He was coming from Fresno State, right? Mm-hmm. And that can really derail. And then when you go to, we were a new franchise, so essentially you're already you're way behind. You're not going to win, right? And so you got to think Derek Carr goes to Oakland, who has a poisonous organization, lack of leadership from top to bottom, and gets in there and turns it around with not only his, aura, personality, and standards, but by his play. And when he's doing it, when he was on that MVP season, it's great. But then he took a lot of darts for other people's doing. And it's kind of like Chris Paul in that sense, that he always had these weird freak injuries, right? I still think Chris Paul is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but they do have a lot of, there is a lot of connection there where kind of overlooked, a really good player, always starting, always performing, and will have magical games, but then also will have some disappointing moments, and sometimes at the biggest moments, right? And so, I think it's kind of, they definitely go hand in hand. And look, being able to win at the highest level, I won't say it's a lot of luck, but it is a lot of situational. It's based on a lot of situations, because you don't get to dictate who the team has drafted 2 or 3 years prior, who they draft during your draft, and 2 or 3 years after, or the better point is where you go and then who's making the decisions. And so, I think Derek Carr made the most of it, and I think that he was, infectious. And I think also, like Chris Paul, you expect him to come in and fix things at this point in their career. And you're always going back. Like when they mentioned Derek Carr, they mentioned that pretty much MVP season, right? And what he was able to do when he went to New Orleans. And then when you talk about Chris Paul, they mentioned, one of the greatest point guards of all time and all this stuff, and the great mid-range and all that. But then when he plays with San Antonio, you're like, oh, the 9-point games and the 9 points and 2 assists. And
he had that
then
OKC run, right? Where he goes to OKC and he turned that place. They weren't even supposed to sniff the playoffs. And I think he took them to like a 4 seed in the West.
Yeah. Yeah. And so and you know what they do? They're the ultimate cleanup men. You know what I mean? And they'll go to crappy situations that were made crappy by the previous regime, and they'll come in with consistency, accountability, playmaking ability, and turn it around and get it to the point. And then once they get it to the point, then the organization will be like, oh, you're not Tom Brady, or you're not LeBron, or you're not Steph Curry, and then they'll go to the next spot and do it. Well, that's exactly why he's down in San Antonio or was, because they knew exactly what he would bring with a really, really young and impressionable locker room. And so that's exactly what they are, cleanup guys, and they exceed expectations. But then once the expectations are met, they're like, okay, that's enough. And then we need to go on and we can find bigger, better. And a lot of times, though, Harrison, look at the Raiders. It doesn't work out after they leave, right? Look at Devontae Adams, who was the leading receiver in the league. He's gone, 2 or 3 teams. And Josh Jacobs and all those guys they had, right, are all gone. And the same thing with Chris Paul. When he leaves organizations, it usually takes them a little bit of time to kind of get their bangs together, because I think they are, and you can also be underappreciated and overrated, right? But I think they're more underappreciated than overrated. And he's one of them.
I think you ever seen that show Bar Rescue?
Yes.
That's what it reminds me of, where they go in there, you're talking about with that consistency, and they'll get that place up and running again. But if you look at any of those bars after the TV show, they always just go back to being what they were before, because the owners are still the same. And what you look at what the Raiders have really done ever since the whole car, and nothing's been great up until this point in time. Now we'll go out and see. And we got a couple minutes here left. So since we're on it, Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, and also Chip Kelly, which I think a lot of people forget that he's no longer up at Ohio State now. Where are you at with the Raiders and their season? Because they got a tough division, but I was always really high on Pete Carroll, and he's still a guy to me that had plenty of years coaching in him. And I do like getting Chip Kelly there as well. And now you got Geno Smith, you got your quarterback situation, and then you're also able to pull in Genty for your running back.
Yeah, I think they're quiet. I mean, in the AFC West, obviously, I don't think they're gonna, beat the Chiefs or anything like that. But I think they're gonna give people some problems. I think Pete Carroll is a hell of a coach. We talked about it this week on Old School. I think everywhere he's been, he's won. I think he got a raw deal with the Jets, and I think he got an even rawer deal with the Patriots a long time ago, maybe even before you were born. But then when he went to Seattle, I think he made them into a consistent winner. I think he developed players. I think he took Richard Sherman and those guys, and Richard Sherman and all those guys with the Legion of Boom, and turned them into at least 1 or 2 guys potentially going in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and he got criticized heavily for that draft. Right. I mean, I don't think I was old enough to really remember it, but you go back and apparently the word was that this guy doesn't know what he's doing, or at the very least, the GM was getting hell for all those guys, pretty much all the picks.
Right, because you got to think he picked Richard Sherman, who was kind of like Richard Sherman was a receiver, played 1 year DB, right? Ran like a 4.7 40, and then he picked Cam Chancellor. Well, those 2 dudes right there are potentially going to go to the Hall of Fame. Now, you knocked out of the park with Earl Thomas, and then obviously you had Browner, who was a really big corner and all that, but he made him into the Legion of Boom, and then obviously he took a chance on Marshawn Lynch, knew Marshawn Lynch as a person, made him into a really good player, and then obviously pivoted from Matt Flynn and went with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a Hall of Famer, so he doesn't get enough credit, and he should get more credit, not only him but Schneider. But I also think he didn't want to leave Seattle when he left, right? Mm-hmm. And remember, he was kind of an advisory role. Remember, he wanted to coach. He was. You might not know this. I interviewed him on the Big Ten Network. He was coaching like a competitive men's league basketball team, where they were going around in California and coaching. He was coaching. And remember, he went to like USC and kind of did like a professor thing and all that. So you knew that they were still in his blood, and he has tons of energy. I think they're going to give people some problems. I think the AFC West, like the AFC North, is going to be the most competitive race, because you got to think. I think with Genty, I think he's got his running back that he wants. I think it's a sneaky good offensive line. I think Geno Smith, he knows Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll knows him. I think they upgraded at the receiver position a little bit. And then also they have one of the most productive and electrifying young tight ends in Brock Bowers. And then you got Max Crosby. But then also, you know this, Pete Carroll's defenses are going to be simple. They're going to be physical. They're going to be fast. So that means they're going to be in most games, right? And then you got to think of the Chiefs. I think that obviously they're the Chiefs. They're always going to be the favorite. But then you got the Chargers, right? What can they do on top of what they did last year? And then you got the team in the Broncos who
Broncos
look the playoffs.
Yeah, they look tough though. I think everyone in the AFC West is sweating at least a little bit about what the Broncos might have cooking.
4 teams, and the Broncos have been competitive, and they beat the break off the Chiefs the last game. So everybody's in this off season. Even the Chiefs, right? Even yes, the Chiefs got Kelsey, they got Mahomes. That's the ultimate X factor, but they still lost the Super Bowl. So this offseason is drastically different for the Chiefs based on what everybody else is. It's an arms race there. There's no weaknesses. And Geno Smith is probably on paper, I guess him and Nick are probably battling for that third best quarterback, but their coaches make them a viable number 2 quarterback. You get what I mean? The number 2 ranking. Mm-hmm. So you have Patrick Mahomes, and all 3 quarterbacks are the same. And so once that is there, then you look at all the other pieces. So it's going to be really competitive, and whoever gets off to the best start is going to have a leg up on winning it, because I think you're going to have some winning teams in that AFC West that don't make the playoffs. And then the worst thing before we go to break, Harrison, is when you have a really good season and you don't make the playoffs, then you got owners and sometimes GMs that blow the team up or make dumb decisions because you didn't make the playoffs. It was just a year that your division was too good. So we'll see how it's all handled. It starts this weekend. It started this last weekend with rookie minicamp. We're going to take a quick break, come right back inside the huddle. Jay Foreman, brought by the Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back.
Mike, I've been thinking, our house could really use a makeover. How about new siding?
I've been thinking the same thing. Have you heard of James Hardy?
Yes! Sarah down the street had Roofing Service Company install James Hardy siding on their home, and they love it.
Roofing Service Company does have great reviews.
They took her through the design process and made everything super easy.
Roofing Service Company offers expert design and installation. Couple that with James Hardy's durable products and variety of colors, you and your family will love your exterior remodel. Just visit roofingservicecompany.com. That's roofingservicecompany.com.
On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
The goal for those coming on the road, let's go get that first one. And then here's what'll happen. There'll be you'll kind of be lackadaisical. Instead of keeping that energy, why not instead of keeping that energy, you'll probably see just a little bit more ease of play. Because in the psyche, we did what we came to do.
Every weekday from 3 to 5 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstorats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
Make plans to join 93.7 The Ticket and the Amon Green Foundation for the first annual Nebraska Esports Golf Tournament on Monday, June 9th at Wilderness Ridge. It's a 4-man scramble starting at 11 a.m. that will feature former Husker greats, including Amon Green, Johnny Rogers, Niles Paul, Tony Davis, Adam Carricker, Vershawn Jackson, and more, with great prizes and great golf. Sponsorships are also available. Email Jake at theticketfm.com for more questions or sign your team up online at theticketfm.com. Early bird registration goes through April 20th, and overall registration goes through May 30th.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with Taco Night on Mondays or Whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197. Bagels and Joe is the best place to start off your mornings, and you can order your breakfast ahead of time on their app. You can't go wrong with one of their great bagel sandwiches or breakfast burritos. Stop by any of their 4 locations in Lincoln and their location in Seward. Bagels and Joe. 93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize to participate in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, where your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Take control of your health with the DASH scan at Advanced Medical Imaging. The DASH scan is a full-body MRI designed for advanced health screening. This dynamic approach provides exceptionally sharp images across multiple organ systems, helping to detect potential concerns early. With minimal radiation and no invasive procedures, the DASH scan offers a safe, comprehensive look at your health. Plus, results are delivered faster than ever, giving both patients and physicians confidence in screening and diagnosis. Your health is too important to wait. Schedule your DASH scan today at Advanced Medical Imaging. Visit amimaging.com or call 402-484-6677 to learn more.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
All right, welcome back in Inside the Huddle. Harrison Arns on the ones and twos, and we bring Jay Foreman back in on the Allo VIP line. Jay Foreman, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Be on the lookout October 11th, their second official breast cancer awareness walk. We will be there in effect. I don't know how much I'll be walking. I might have to bring my little scooter here. My wheels got a blowout, but I'll definitely be there in full effect. But it was a good segment, though. That first one we talked about, obviously Mother's Day, and obviously big impact and everybody that has motherly duties and how they've impacted, the sports world, but then obviously everybody else and stuff like that too. Again, want to give another shout out. And then we talked about Derek Carr, man. I mean, you got to think, it's a Mother's Day for him and his family. And then obviously I know Mama Carr very well, so I'm sure she's proud of her, all of her kids, but especially her 2 boys, and the dad is a son as well. So it's actually it's not a day of mourning, it's a day of celebration. Probably perfectly timed up for Mother's Day that Derek Carr gets to wake up and get his first full mom duties or whatever to give him a mom a day off. But one person that didn't take a day off, Harrison, Ant-Man. Anthony Edwards, even though he's fighting it, fastly approaching of being the face of the league. And I know he said he didn't want it to be, and obviously he had some stuff off the field, but he just off the court. He said he just wants to play basketball. But when you have like iconic plays, when you posterize guys, and then you go to Golden State when it looked like Golden State essentially had control of the game, which would have then gave them control of the series, and just go in there and rip their hearts out on a big stage like this, when the aging stars of KG, obviously Steph Curry is hurt the first time ever in his career having a strained muscle, and LeBron all at home. Kawhi just got sent home. When you think about that, whether he likes it, loves it, or hates it, he's going to be the face of the league. And man, is he a pleasure to watch because he plays with an old school kind of joy of the game. He's extremely competitive, and the energy that he plays with is infectious because he's only going to get better, and he's only gotten better over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think the best thing for him that makes him the most marketable is like he just plays with. I hate saying it because it turns into the LeBron versus MJ debate every time, but he has that same energy that like a guy like Kobe and a guy like Jordan that you appreciate. If you go watch a game with Anthony Edwards in there, the best way to put him, he's in that same tree as Russell Westbrook. Like you're not going to go watch a game and he's going to go out there flopping or go out there and take plays off completely defensively because he didn't, the refs didn't give him a call that he should have had. He'll still have games where it'll be a bad shooting night, but he's not going to be scared to take that last shot when the game's on the line. Because he's had a few in this series where, he's had some pretty not horrendous, but not great numbers, but the confidence never sways from him. The only problem is that you mentioned Steph Curry's not in this game. If Steph Curry was in this one and he can knock off Steph Curry as well, and then whatever that sets up for him in the Western Conference Finals, if he somehow lands Jokic as well as the Nuggets are up in that series, and then he beats Jokic, well, then we're talking about this run as that's the run that definitely made Anthony Edwards that guy. But right now, he just how loaded the West is with stars, like he's still got a little bit more work to do. Like I'm not all the way there quite yet with Anthony Edwards.
Oh yeah. I think every year he's getting closer and closer, right?
But the problem is he's got Victor Wembanyama on his heels, and there's a few other guys.
Yeah, individually, but I think what helps Anthony Edwards is that his team is in the playoffs, so it's almost that lasting impression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it could be more than one, and then also Harrison, you just mentioned Victor Wembanyama. I think the Joker is still in the prime of his career, even though he's starting to get older. But obviously Tatum through the playoffs historically, even though they won a championship last year, hasn't taken the mantle as the next big name, big player American. That's what makes him so appealing. But then you're right though. When you watch younger LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, obviously Russell Westbrook, even James Harden before he got into the whole, going out late and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You even if they didn't score 30 points or have a very efficient night, you always felt like you got your money's worth, and that's where Anthony Edwards is at. He's a two-way player, 3-level scorer. But then also, I think he makes everybody else around him better because the best player is an extremely hard worker. And every year he's came back, right? He's learned from his losses, right? I think 2 years ago, I think he missed the shot against the Nuggets, got them back last year, and then everybody thought okay, you get rid of Cat, will the Timberwolves be? They were kind of sluggish a little bit. Then he started fire. Remember, he got a lot of flack for shooting so many threes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think people will worry about that right now because that was a byproduct of waiting until Julius Randle came back, and then that combination, along with Dante coming over in that big trade, seems like it's starting to mesh at the right time. But it's all led by Anthony Edwards. And let's not also forget, Harrison, in the day and time of athletes not welcoming criticism, right? Especially star players, whether it's high school, college, or pros. They generally balk back at it or push back at it, cower, or decide, since you really, are trying to coach me, I'll go other places. We've seen it everywhere, right? Well, his coach called him out after game one. He said it starts with him. Our energy starts with him. Just because you start slow doesn't mean you cower and don't, continue to compete. Well, Anthony Edwards has the humility, but then also the realization that he didn't do his job as being selfless as a leader and leading other people in this series. And what has he done since? He just says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what my coach said and then some. And it showed on a national stage. And the Timberwolves, if they can get through Golden State, pretty quickly, especially with now saying Steph Curry probably might be out for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
That's not a strained hamstring. That's a pulled hamstring. And they can get some rest with their length and the way that they're playing and shooting, the emergence of Naz Reid, and then more importantly, Julius Randle being consistent and healthy, along with that guy right there. Now it shifts because the Celtics have shown, you know, a chink in their armor, right? As far as being, everybody thought it was like their championship or bust. New York probably will be worn out because I think the East are beating up each other, and then the Pacers or the Cavs don't really match up well with the Timberwolves or whoever comes out of the West. You could be looking like just overnight in a switch of a couple of weeks, a kind of a tricky injury with Steph Curry, and then obviously the magnitude of being the last superstar on stage. You could see the changing of the guard from the new or the old NBA, which is like the guys I mentioned before, to Anthony Edwards, to like a Wembanyama, maybe a Chet if they get going, OKC, which is obviously would be a hard out, to Shea, Alexander and all those guys. Literally, it could happen overnight because if you get those young guns in, like the Western Conference Finals, say OKC, Timberwolves, right? And then I guess you can get whoever out of the Celtics. But if you get a young and upcoming, Halliburton made it, played on Team USA, but, him and Tatum had the thing where they didn't play, and they have some epic series, and then say OKC passes through, or the Timberwolves somehow get and passes through, then I wouldn't say they're pushing LeBron and those guys out of the league, but then it's going to be a whole shift at the NBA offices, how to get LeBron, Steph Curry, KD, and all those guys to kind of push those younger guys further, because what the best thing for the NBA has or will need and has to have is the old guard really turning it over to the new guard and letting them run with it. And it can't happen until they are taught how to do it, like off the court, right, corporately. But then more importantly, they have to play well in the biggest moments, and most of them are doing it right now.
Or Jokic says not so fast. You left him out of the whole mix there, and he takes it back overseas, back to Sambar. I think it's Sambar for him. I see. That's the thing, because like the Timberwolves are the Jokic stoppers. I guess I should ask you, like, who do you see coming out of the Thunder and Nuggets? Because actually, even before Game 1, I thought Nuggets. After Game 2, I had some trepidation about it. Game 3, I feel good about it again. But if they come through, the Timberwolves scare me, because that team's literally built to beat that Nuggets team. We saw it last year. But if Jokic makes it through that one as well, and then he beats, say, probably the Celtics or anyone who comes out of there, then you got another year of having Jokic having one of the best series we've seen in a long time since, I don't want to put it up there with Dirk's run, but I mean, that's the team with the Clippers who had a James Harden and whatever you think about it, Ben Simmons and Kawhi Leonard. And then you go on to the next round with the Thunder, which this Thunder team had one of the craziest win-loss records we've seen in the Western Conference, and you stiff-arm Shea. And then to move on to Timberwolves series, I mean, that's a massive number of all-stars to run through to make it to another finals. And then I think he's actually only like 30, 31. So you got to remember, I mean, this is good chance 5 more years of Jokic doing this. It's going to be tough to like become the face of the league when every year this guy's doing this, especially if he makes it to the finals this year.
Yeah, because he's an unstoppable force, because it's almost like, Harrison, it used to be way back in the day, from 22 to 26, that was your prime, right? And then they were like, all right, well, you're done in 30. Well, now the way that the NBA is gone and the way these guys play, and obviously you have a really good player, or not good, a great player like Joker, is that he gets better with age. And their team chemistry and how they play together and the knowledge of the game and the way that the game is played, especially he can hit threes and he's kind of a point center, but then he kills you on the board. He has a really good assist to turnover ratio and all that, and he makes everybody else better around him. Essentially, he's an unstoppable force. And until he decides that he wants to go and ride his horses, over in like Serbia or wherever he's originally from, the NBA is on notice. Now, what has to happen is you have to have built not only for him, but then also for like the odd that you're going to have to face the OKC, who is kind of built like the Timberwolves, but they're not as like big and physical, because you got Rudy Gobert that is able to give him some problems. But yeah, Joker is the guy. Now the only problem with the Joker is he doesn't do a lot of commercials and all that stuff. Essentially,
No, but that's my point. Like, just real quick, like, because I put a bad point on the end of it. Like, SGA and those guys, they can like turn into these all-stars, but even if Jokic isn't marketable, it's just going to make that face of the league really hard when you got this guy up in Denver putting up all these crazy numbers. And then we're like, but the face of the league is Anthony Edwards. Ignore that guy up in Denver because he's not very marketable. It's going to be, you're going to have to do something crazy because Mike, there's no question. For Kobe, the little while there, it was Kobe and LeBron, you could argue. Magic Larry, but it's just going to be tough. I think he's just going to split however you feel about the quote unquote face of the league, from like just the diehard basketball fans to the everyday fans that recognize, the big superstar.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy because they're gonna be doing all that stuff, and then you're going to hear the narrative. Oh, he's he's good, but he's not the face of the league. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the best player, but he's not the face of the league. And you know what will hopefully happen is they'll just appreciate that Joker doesn't want to be in, X amount of commercials. He just wants to play, basketball and go back. And just like kind of like before your time, Arvydas Sabonis, it was so long before he got here. And then when he finally got here, he didn't do a lot of, commercials, but you appreciated his knowledge for basketball and the great 5 or 6 year run because he was a little bit older when he was able to, come over, after his obligations. And so I think you're going to have like 2 different marketing like kind of deals. And Joker's the best player. He's the most dominant player. And then everybody else has to get in where they fit in. And you know what's crazy is that one person that we haven't talked about was the biggest trade up until recently in NBA history is Luka. He's like an afterthought now. You get what I'm saying? Or last year it was all about Luka, right? Now it's like an afterthought. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. But what's going to happen now, we're going to take a quick break, come back. We're going to put a bow on this Inside the Huddle edition on Mother's Day. Jay Foreman, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back.
Tailored Landscapes is actively preparing for spring. Things like new tree orders, getting equipment ready, and training staff to serve you the best they can. If you haven't already planned, now is the perfect time to figure out a maintenance plan for your yard. Tailored Landscapes is on the brink of spring cleanups for all their existing customers, and they have limited spots available. They trim trees and shrubs when needed and only mulch proper amounts. Give Tailored Landscapes a call at 402-432-2572 to set up a meeting with one of their designers and stop by the Tailored Life store in Bennett.
Are you buying a home? Westgate Bank understands that you need to make important decisions during your home buying journey. Our local lenders in Lincoln and Omaha make themselves available so you can get the information you need to know. Use our mobile mortgage app to manage your transaction from pre-qualification to closing, no matter where you are. Get the service and convenience you want from a local community bank where our interest is you. Learn more and visit us online at westgate.bank. Westgate Bank, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
Lincoln's go-to for fun isn't new. It's a place that's been a staple of the city for years and is only getting better. Matson's Bowling and Billiards always has open bowling available with no long lines, unlike other centers. They have live music almost every weekend and great food at EJ's Bar and Lounge, with seating for 150 people. They have popular meals like the EJ Burger, pizza for the whole family, and famous EJ's Wings. Contact Sarah to book a party for friends, coworkers, or family at Matson's Bowling and Billiards, just south of 48th and Holdridge.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
What's better than supporting your favorite radio station and eating delicious Nebraska-made products? Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska wants to highlight you, the listener, on the 93.7 The Ticket Wall of Fame at the store. Stop by the store at 48th and R in Lincoln and see their huge variety of small batch gourmet jerky. Or if you're not in the area and want to try some, go to smokinggunjerky.com and enter code EARLY for 10% off your purchase. It's the ultimate low-calorie, high-protein snack at Smoking Gun Jerky of Nebraska.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call today at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started. Attention all Wings fans, Buffalo Wings and Rings has daily specials that will make you want to stop in on all days of the week. Kids eat free on Mondays, and on Tuesdays enjoy 40% off boneless or traditional wings at a price that makes the whole family happy. And come back on Wednesdays for $1.39 chicken tenders all day long. Get to Wings and Rings today, 68th and O or in Williamsburg Village.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Early break.
Weird things that freaks me out. Unleaded gas still. It says unleaded. There hasn't been leaded gas for 40 years. Why does it say unleaded gas? It should just say gas. There hasn't been leaded gas since the 70s. It freaks me out, but it should just say gas. And you can pick what, like hey, we have this, we have the premium, we have
with
the
Steve Sipple, Jake Sorensen, and Bill Bush from 6 to 9 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize to participate in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the KNTK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
You grew up on cereal for breakfast, and you graduated into drinking coffee at some point as an adult. Now there's a place in Lincoln where you can stay caffeinated but eat like you used to. Control Coffee and Cereal Bar brings Saturday morning vibes to every day with locally roasted specialty coffees, Lotus energy drinks, and tons of breakfast cereals with toppings. And did we mention they have video games to play while you're there too? Control Coffee and Cereal Bar open 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the weekends at 15th and Pine Lake.
You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment, Inside the Huddle, with the host, as always, Jay Foreman on the Allo VIP line. Jay, where do you want to wrap up with?
Well, we're going to go real quick, Harrison. We got two games today. It's the Nuggets, obviously the Thunder, Cleveland, Indiana. Getting the party started with the Nuggets and the Thunder early. I think the Thunder's back's against the wall, but I think Denver, with their veteran presence, I'm looking at OKC. If they lose today, kind of like Detroit Lions were in the NFL, right? Probably the best and most consistent team during the season. You face a veteran team or a team that's hot. I think Denver stealing that game one did more mentally against the Thunder than anything.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what?
Game two.
Aaron Gordon reminds me of is Andre Iguodala on the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, he's just hitting these big-time shots on the three-point line. Not a great three-point shooter, but this postseason run, he's been unreal. And then just on top of that, like, athletically, what he provides as a slasher. Jokic just had some not great games, and Aaron Gordon, surprisingly, has just been, I think way better than anybody could have anticipated. I mean, what does he have now? Three quote buzzer beaters, one you could put in a gray area. In this playoff series alone, most guys, they'd be lucky to get a couple in their entire careers. And Gordon, just in these playoff series, has had 3 moments down the stretch where he's hit big clutch time shots, send it to OT, or just straight up win the game.
Yeah, and that's what you need sometimes. You need big time shots. So I'm gonna say Denver's gonna gut out and take control of the series, but then I think Cleveland's gonna find a way to stop Halliburton in their big time shots, and more importantly, not punching themselves in the face in late game mishaps. So I think the Cleveland series is going to end up 2-2, and then I think Denver's going to be up 3-1. We'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too far from you. I like the Thunder, and then the Cavs. Now that they're getting their health back, I think that was the biggest reason the Pacers were right to take advantage of it. But I'm right there with you. Give me the Cavs and then Nuggets as well.
Yeah, well, anyways, appreciate you listening. Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Hit them up. All your imaging needs, they'll do it. October 11th, Breast Cancer Awareness Walk. Jay Foreman, appreciate you listening. We'll holler at you next week.